Howdy folks, Sharpie Point here. Today I'm going to talk to you about how to make a hydrogen bubbler, as it's known as, in oxygen not included, that's fully automated and requires, once it's fully functional, very little energy to maintain. You can see here I have several chambers that are already set up. This is the hydrogen chamber, our liquid oxygen chamber, our conversion chamber, our polluted oxygen storage. The equipment that we're going to be using is gas pumps, thermal sensors, high pressure gas vents, gas shutoff valves, hydro sensors, mini liquid pumps, buffer gates, thermal regulators, and of course all of our gas piping too. So let's go to the automation overlay and start there. Now each of these sensors, thermal sensors, are connected to a gas valve. This one here is connected to this bottom gas valve. This top one here is actually connected to the very first thermal regulator. This middle one here is then connected to the next gas valve. This thermal sensor here is then connected to the next one. And then this thermal sensor here is connected to this gas valve. So what happens is each sensor is actually set at a different temperature. This sensor here is set at 375 degrees Fahrenheit. This one here, minus 350 degrees Fahrenheit. This next one, minus 325 degrees Fahrenheit. This one here, minus 300 degrees Fahrenheit. And then this one here is also at minus 300 degrees Fahrenheit. Now these plates here are metal tiles. These tiles here are made from tungsten. All other tiles that are surrounded in this area are made from the abyssalite. All of our gas piping is also made from abyssalite, with the exception of all the gas piping that's in this area here. It's all made from granite. So our abyssalite separates our different temperatures from either being too hot, too cold, because it actually has a good insulation. So here's what it looks like with the temperature overlay. Now, let's go to the ventilation overlay. Our ventilation overlay. The hydrogen itself is then forced through these two pumps and through these regulators. Now, when this hydrogen gets to this first gas valve, if this gas valve is active, it'll flow in this direction. If this gas valve is not active, it'll flow in this direction. Now, by using gas bridges on this other side, create a one-way path for the gas to flow, so that once this gas, if it's using down this lower path, it won't flow back through their gas valves and ultimately destroy your pipes. It only has one direction to flow, so it'll go this direction here. So let's see this in operation and see what happens. But before we do that, there's more other things I want to talk about. Let's go back to the automation overlay. Now here we have several mini liquid pumps set up. We have a buffer gate that's connected to an atmospheric sensor. We have another buffer gate that's connected to a hydro sensor. This atmospheric sensor, when it goes through this buffer gate is set at 30 seconds, which then opens up these two doors. This will allow for the high pressure gas that's in this area to flow through this low pressure area up here. This hydrosensor is set at 250 grams. Excuse me, 250 kilograms, which once it activates this buffer. We can get it collected. There we go. And it's set at 30 seconds. This buffer gate here is then connected to all these mini liquid pumps. So why are we storing some of our liquid oxygen that we're creating in this area? That's so the pipes themselves won't burst when it's draining all this liquid oxygen. And then all this liquid oxygen is then eventually stored up in this chamber up here. So we'll go to the plumbing overlay. See all of our piping here, and now the piping itself is from abyssalite, created from abyssalite. Flows up this direction and then dumps in this chamber. So now, when you make this chamber does not have to be in a vacuum. Even if there is some polluted oxygen up here, don't worry about it, because this oxygen here will act like it's a cold surface and will convert that for you. However, the chamber you have all your hydrogen in, you would want just hydrogen only. Now, hydrogen is easily accessible through the electrolyzers. I would suggest getting at least 10 kilograms of hydrogen in the area. Also behind the hydrogen, you're going to want to put the thermal shift plates. Now what that does is that maintains this temperature throughout the space more evenly. You see here in this corner here, the temperature of the hydrogen is at minus 302.5 degrees Fahrenheit. Up in this corner, 302.6 degrees Fahrenheit. So the temperature will stay at a steady temperature throughout this area. So that's what a great way of using these shift plates. So now that we know that how everything is working, let's actually watch it in action. I'm going to speed up time a little bit, and I'm going to get rid of some of this oxygen. There we go. Now this sensor here is a hydrosensor. Let's go back to the automation overlay, and it's actually connected to these two gas pumps. If this hydrosensor is set at 100 kilograms, if it drops below, which we made it do, it'll activate this whole system. Now each thermal regulator removes 25 degrees from the gas. So the gas is coming in at minus 302 and comes out at minus 327. Again, same thing here. Takes away 25 degrees. 25 degrees and 25 degrees. So with 4 of these, we're removing 400 degrees total. But because hydrogen has a limit as to how cold you can get it, you got to be really careful with that. Our hydrogen condenses at minus 421.9. So once this gas goes through, you can see it's going through at minus 378. With 4 of them, it would go up to 400. So that's kind of a safety step that we've done as to how much cooling power we need at any one given time, as to how many sensors are actually activated, or how many thermal regulators are actually operating at the same time. Now, this chamber is actually starting to get cold enough and starting to create a bunch of oxygen. As you can see, it's making quite a bit of oxygen now. So let's go to the hydrosensor. As you notice, this number is actually climbing up very, very quickly because of how much we're converting. Our doors have opened to allow more gas to flow through. Our critical number that we're looking for is 250 kilograms of oxygen. Once that happens, that switch will activate this buffer gate, and start these mini liquid pumps to pump all this liquid oxygen to this storage chamber up here. There, as you can see there, all the pumps have activated, and now we're drawing out that liquid oxygen to be stored up this direction. Okay, so now once we actually got our liquid oxygen made, what else can we do with it? Well, we're going to pump this liquid oxygen to another chamber to actually be heated. And that's over here. This pump here is actually connected to this atmospheric sensor. If this atmospheric sensor is set at 2,000 grams. So if it's below that, it'll activate that pump and draw some of that liquid oxygen out. Oxygen in its liquid state has a higher, you can actually store more oxygen in its liquid state than you can as a gas. So our liquid is then pumped over here, and then it's being heated up. This thermal sensor here connects all these space heaters. This sensor here is activated if the temperature is below 70 degrees Fahrenheit. So we'll go to the automation overlay. As you can see here, the thermal sensor here connected to each of the space heaters. Again, this atmospheric sensor here runs this direction up to this mini liquid pump. And then our gas itself is then pumped out to our base itself, or to whatever you desire you want oxygen to be provided. So this is a complete overview of how to do this. If you have any other questions or comments, I'd like to hear from you. Until next time, thank you for watching. Take care of yourselves and each other.